Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this amazing session featuring esteemed alumni of the CAPS program to share their stories and some really important work that they are doing to bring their wisdom back to current CAPS students. If I can have my panelists come off of mute and put their videos up, that would be great. By way of background, my name is Julia Freeland Fisher. I'm the Director of Education Research at a small nonprofit think tank called the Christensen Institute. And because of my research on new innovative models that expand students' access to social capital and professional networks, I've gotten to know Corey and the team at Blue Valley and the CAPS network nationwide over the past few years. And I am so excited for today's session because it's featuring what I think is a truly powerful and often untapped resource, which is students themselves, and specifically alumni who have gone through the CAPS experience, are now out in the world of work and have immense and in some cases even more useful information to lend to current students than all of us older adults that may be at different places in our own journeys. So today we have with us Jenna Felsen, Antonio Linhart, and Lauren Nordell-Morris, all CAPS alumni, like I said, and they're going to share a little bit about their stories. Briefly, I want to touch on sort of why Corey, I think, approached me to host this session, to moderate this session, and the sort of power of alumni and alumni social capital. So this term social capital, it gets thrown around a lot, but it's essentially the idea that our networks contain real value. And there's actually really striking data on the fact that often our alumni networks go untapped. In our post-secondary space, only 9% of college graduates report that their alumni network was helpful or very helpful in the job search. And I was saying to Corey and Jenna yesterday, I call BS on that because our students are paying for access to networks with their time and their money. And most importantly, we know from the research that near peers, people who are close in age and experience, can often lend the best advice to current students. So it's awesome that Jenna, Antonio, and Lauren have taken it upon themselves to actually create an alumni engagement network of sorts and come back to sort of, again, share their experience and wisdom with current CAPS students. I'd encourage others in the CAPS network who are thinking about their alumni base, which may be small, it may not exist yet, you may still be in startup mode, but think about this as a real asset to cultivate over the years, as a way to not just track what's becoming of the students that you're serving, but also a way to continue to bring relevance and rigor into the experiences that CAPS students really join CAPS in an effort to find, right, beyond the traditional classroom. So I'm going to have you each introduce yourself. Jenna, I'll have you go first. Share a little bit about what you focused on back in the day when you participated in CAPS, what you're up to, and what you're up to now in your current job or internship.
Thank you, Julia. Yeah, I'm Jenna Felsen. I am a 2016 Blue Valley CAPS grad. I participated in the digital design and photography class for 3 semesters, and then the Innovate and Entrepreneurship strand for 1 semester. So took advantage of the whole CAPS experience and got to spend 2 full years in the program. And then now I'm a financial analyst at JPMorgan Chase in Chicago, and I graduated from the University of Missouri, Kansas City.
Awesome. Thanks, Jenna. Antonio, I'll have you go next. Share a little bit about what your experience was during CAPS and now what you're up to.
Yeah, my name is Antonio. I am a 2018 CAPS grad. I was in the Technology Solutions program in Blue Valley CAPS for 4 semesters. And I also, while I was in that class, I got the opportunity to work with teacher ed, with business, and to really diversify my experience across different CAPS strands, even though I was in technology. Right now, I am going to be a rising senior at the University of Nebraska in the fall. And this summer, I have an internship remotely at Google, where I'm working on one of their teams to develop a web application.
Awesome. I can see such a direct line between what you got to do in high school and what you're up to now. Last but certainly not least, Lauren, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, hey folks, I'm Lauren Nordell-Morris. I'm a 2015 CAPS graduate from the Blue Valley area. I was also in the digital design and photography strand, only did it for 2 semesters, just my senior year, and it was honestly the best year of my high school experience. I ended up going to the University of Kansas and got a business degree there. And I'm working as an analyst at VMLY&R, which is a marketing and advertising agency headquartered in Kansas City.
Awesome. So I think we can all hear just in that little taste of your own journeys how professional experience in the course of high school can actually really shape what you pursue in post-secondary and beyond. But all of you have now really taken a pay it forward and pay it back, I should say, attitude of actually trying to sort of come back to the CAPS network, largely remotely as I understand it, and talk to current students. And I'm curious sort of to hear one thing that you've shared as you've been talking to current CAPS students, like some nugget of wisdom or insight. Hindsight is 2020. As we all make our way through our professional journeys, you kind of learn what you didn't know and who you didn't know. So Jenna, what's one thing that you've gotten a chance to share as you talk to current CAPS students in the network?
I would say one thing that I learned throughout my experience, and I think given the pandemic as well, is just to be flexible and always just be on the lookout for new experiences. I think it's really easy to, when you first enter into a program like CAPS, you kind of have, I think there's two options. There's either the type of student that knows exactly what it is they want to do, or the student that doesn't know anything at all. And so for me, I thought that I knew exactly what I wanted to do. And I wanted to do graphic design originally, and I was going to be a marketing major and all of that. But I think as I started to gain all of these experiences through CAPS, and I got to attend lots of networking sessions and had multiple internships, I started to realize, what was out there. And so being flexible and learning new interests that I didn't think that I'd ever have exposure to really helped me. And so, I pivoted into a role in finance. And so as I move forward into my early career now, I think I've surprised myself with just my ability to adapt to the environment that I'm in, and working remotely for a year as well is definitely something that I learned a lot about myself during the pandemic, and being able to be proactive, reaching out for help. So I think that's another piece of advice, is like always be proactive too, and don't be afraid to ask for help, because I think people want to give you help, especially when you're in a seat like this, when you're early on in your career and you're eager to learn. I think that's where I've received the most growth, is just when I ask for help, and just admitting to that you don't know everything. So it's okay.
Awesome. I think these are all things that, our traditional education system is really good at some things, but not necessarily teaching or embracing flexibility, exploration, all the things you're describing, Jenna. So I imagine that for current CAP students, that's a valuable lesson. Antonio, how about you, as you've talked to current CAP students? What are some topics that sort of come up and where you feel like you can lend some insight or wisdom, given where you now are in your own journey?
I would say that one of the biggest things that I've shared with current CAP students is just the concept of you get out of CAPS what you put into it. There's a lot of different engagement levels between CAP students. Some might not be super engaged, some might be in the middle, but those that are super, super engaged have the possibility to get so many different opportunities, and like Jenna said, get experience in a bunch of different areas to figure out exactly what you want to do. And coming into CAPS, I kind of knew what I wanted to do. I thought I might want to do some teaching. So I had some experience in teachers ed, working with their class. I thought I also might want to do some entrepreneurship. So I was able to take a class from Greg Brown in his entrepreneurship class, which is really great. And just bringing that all back into tech and like combining it with my passion for technology, I really think that CAPS is a really fantastic place for doing that. And I try to express that to the current students, because I got my first internship in high school because of CAPS, which led to my second internship and led to my current internship that I have with Google. So I would say that it's really, really helpful to put yourself out there, make those connections, because you really never know where it's going to take you. Just the same with building connections with other CAPS classes and other CAPS instructors. I think that something that I was told when I started CAPS, and I didn't pay a lot of attention to it, but I realized that hindsight's 2020. But looking back, all those opportunities really helped make me who I am. and helped me get to where I am today. So I'm very thankful for that.
Love that, Antonio. And just for the educators listening and those running CAPS sort of models beyond Blue Valley, I think that what Antonio is saying, keeping in mind that having Antonio share that wisdom with current students is going to land really differently than having an adult educator or administrator tell students, you'll get out what you put in, right? Antonio can lend this credibility of like, I lived it, and here's 3 internships I've had in the past 4 years because of it. So thinking about your recent alums as real messengers that can help students get the most out of the CAPS experience. I think, Antonio, you're demonstrating the exact power of that. Lauren, how about you? When you've talked to current students, what's sort of come up and felt like important wisdom or expertise to share back?
Yeah, I'll just build on what Jenna and Antonio said. CAPS definitely allows you to figure out what you want to do and kind of have, and it's that launch pad that allows you to possibly choose a major before you go to college and start on a major track. But actually in the opposite side of things, it actually worked in a different way for me. So I also thought that I was going to go into graphic design, and I went to a KU and started a graphic design major, and then I ended up deciding that's not something that I wanted to do. But if I had not done CAPS earlier, I would have probably had to go through my whole undergraduate experience to understand that and figure that out. So figuring out what you like is as important, if not more important than finding things that you don't like. And both of those are important. So I just wanted to note that, and CAPS allows you to figure that out before, having to be paying large sums of money when you're going to a private or public school. But then I also say, one of the things that I've been able to give back to current CAPS students or talk about with them is if you are given the opportunity to speak to someone in a career or a field or even a school or anything that you're interested in, if you just reach out and you're very authentic about it and say that you're really interested in learning from them, chances are people are going to respond back to that, because people like to talk about themselves and people like to talk about what they're doing. And those authentic relationships will just be built if you find the right person that likes what they're doing and is invested in you as a person and your growth.
I also want to,
go ahead, Jenna.
I wanted to piggyback off of that as well and say, emphasize the importance of networking at the high school level. So what Antonio was saying about, you get out what you put into it. It's so true. And I think because I signaled to my instructors and just the different partners that CAPS works with every day, and some of the people that I worked with on my client projects, those people that I networked with then really served me well, even when I went into college, and I was able to tap into my network even in college. And it honestly helped me get to where I am today in my career at JPMorgan. So the importance of networking is, you can never start too soon. You can do that in high school. And what Lauren said too is so true. Just being authentic and reaching out if you're curious about a role, or if there's a skill you want to learn, just reach out. And it's amazing how far your network can take you.
Wow, I'm so glad we're recording this, because that is a perfect testament to so much of what my research is about. So thanks both Lauren and Jenna. And I think something you said, Lauren, really struck me of CAPS is presenting current students with a sort of try before you buy experience to really explore and to take advantage of the flexibility. And again, I think that's something that many of us in a costly way learn in hindsight. And the more that kind of recent alums can send that message back to current students, I think the more well-positioned they are, to Antonio's point, to take advantage of what's in front of them. So I want to be not too Pollyanna-ish, because as you guys can tell in my moderating style, I'm urging other people that are running CAPS programs, other alumni in the CAPS sort of network, to do what these alumni are doing, what Jen, Antonio, and Lauren are talking about, which is find ways to share back, right? And that really can create this virtuous cycle of resource sharing across a broader network. But that can actually be hard to kind of get going, right? And Jenna, I had a chance to talk to Jenna briefly yesterday, and has really been spearheading some of these efforts. And I think sometimes it can be challenging to get alumni to talk to students. So Jenna, can you just name some like challenges you've come across as you've tried to like broker these alumni student connections within the small but mighty CAPS network that you're a part of?
Sure. Yeah. Let me give a quick overview of, just for those that are, not aware of what we did,
Yeah.
but basically last fall, the little group of people that are on this call today, we actually were talking about ways to give back to the CAPS network and just how much it impacted us. And the idea was really born out of the pandemic and coming up with ways that we can stay connected during this time. So we founded our own alumni driven committee, and we started reaching out to our alumni and coming up with different ideas for ways that alumni can stay engaged with current students. And so we had this event called Cultivate, where we had a speaker series, and we reached out to alumni to kind of speak about their experiences and be able to share about like their early career and just how CAPS had impacted them. And so it went amazingly well. We received great feedback, and we've just started coming up with ways on how we can better engage our alumni, because like you said, Julia, I think we are such a valuable resource and an untapped network. So as we try to scale and grow, we've noticed we receive a lot of engagement from the same group of alumni that want to give back. But our challenge now is, how do we grow from here, and how do we engage students that might not know about our alumni network, and how do we reach people from other programs? And so I think we've kind of tapped out our resources from our committee in terms of the people that we know. So just we're really looking for ways to grow and build out our network to those that might not know about it.
Great call to action to the 110 participants on this current webinar to think about ways that you could catalyze your own alumni communities. And I think, Jenna, Lauren, and Antonio have some lessons learned over the past year of how to do that. But to your point, you only really see network effects if you can continue to reach new people, right? That's kind of, again, the virtuous cycle of engaging an alumni network. So thanks for sort of sharing a little bit more about what you've built and where you are in your in creating that community. So I've alluded to this a few times, but I want to really talk about this idea of near peers, because I doubt that there's any real skeptics of the power and resources that students possess on this particular webinar, given the culture of CAPS. But we've been seeing in the research an outsized effect that near peers can have on students' education and career journeys. They may be more likely to trust those people. Those near peers may have better, more real-time advice that's relevant to them than someone who's 10, 20 years into their career. And it really upends some of the traditional thinking out there that you need just industry mentors who are seasoned professionals to make progress in your life. So I'm just curious, Jenna, Antonio, and Lauren, as you guys are navigating the world of work, be it in internships or full-time jobs, how have near peers played a role? And maybe they're from CAPS, and maybe they're people that you've met in the course of your work in general. So Antonio, I'll ask you this first. Has that come up as you've navigated the world of Google or other large corporations and technology companies?
So it actually started in CAPS. When I was a junior, I came into the CAPS program, and I was not close friends, I was acquaintances with a senior in CAPS, and he was applying to this special school in the Midwest, and it was designed for business and computer science, and I had never heard of it before. But that ended up being the school that I'm attending, and a school that I really enjoyed, and it's helped me greatly in getting connections in the industry. And without knowing him, without getting his advice on interviews and preparing for the program, I would be in a much different place today, going to a much different school, I'm sure, since I expected to stay in state after high school. But even further than that, in my program, I've had many instances of near peers in preparing for interviews, because people who are later in years in college can definitely help give career advice, give industry advice, and help in any single way they can, even just with academics. So it's really helpful to have those experiences from people around you to really give back. It's a little easier in the school setting because you're giving back to the years below you that are in the program, but even outside of that.
Great example. And I think just thinking in the CAPS network, profession-based learning, like Lauren was telling us, is sort of a try before you buy when you're making these really high stakes post-secondary decisions that like often we do with very little data and sort of on a hunch. And the idea that the students who are either alongside you or a few years ahead of you might have their own experience to share and really shape those pathways, I think is so powerful, Antonio. Jenna, any thoughts here on near peers in your own professional or academic journey?
Yes, so I actually can share my near peer experience kind of in a reverse way. So rather than me finding it from other peers older than me, I was able to help people younger than me. So when I was a sophomore in college, I was connected with the YEPKC program. And for those that don't know, basically it's a startup program where businesses partner with students all around the Kansas City metro, and they basically intern in different startups in Kansas City. And so I was responsible as the program manager to help recruit and hire these students. And that opportunity was actually presented to me through the CAPS program. That's thanks to Jennifer Bauer. She connected me to those that ran it. And so I was able to meet a ton of students across the Kansas City metro. And as I ran the program, even after my role there, I had students reach out to me for, college recommendations or using me as a reference for jobs and just reaching out to me for, career advice or advice with school. So I was able to help mentor students. And even though I left that role back in 2019, 2018, I still talk to a lot of those students today. And it's crazy to see how that network effect has really impacted those students, not just through me, but how students that go through that program are able to now help other students as they go through that process.
Amazing. And Jenna, I just want to say, as like a humorless employer as well as a researcher, right? Like the skills and mindsets that you're describing as serving as a near peer mentor are things that employers are looking for. So if we think about, sometimes it gets called soft skills, I think that's diminishing a really important set of skills. But if we think about ways in which you can empower current and now past CAPS students to exercise those muscles, it's only going to further their own professional journeys as well. So Lauren, I'm gonna circle back to your point on networking now, because I think that you so beautifully described why forging networks in the course of a CAP experience can be transformational. And I find in my research, and maybe I'm in good company here, so I don't have to defend it, but the word networking can come off as a little bit gross, a little slimy sounding, a little transactional, conjures images of trading business cards or just trying to get a leg up based on connections. But I'm really curious if you were talking to CAPS educators, which you are in this moment, about how to teach students about the power of networks. What would you recommend? And how can we help current high school students who may not have yet experienced what a professional network can really do in their careers sort of see the value in organic and authentic ways, not those kind of gross transactional ones?
Totally. Yeah, I feel like two things. Number one, definitely agree that networking is kind of that weird like transactional term, and it gets thrown around a lot. But to answer your question, I just have to give a shout out to our digital design and photography strand instructor, John Rogers, because he's actually the embodiment of the reason that I have an answer to this question. While I was in that strand, John was very personable. He was obviously a superior and led and instructed in many ways. But we, found ourselves having a good time in his class, getting to know him personally and whatnot. And that extended even past when we graduated. And I'll speak for Jenna and Megan, who is not on the call, but all three of us have actually stayed in contact with John after we've graduated. We've gone out to happy hours. And John's just been someone that's continued to be in our life. And that's because we are able to give back to him as he was able to give to us while we were in the program. So just as an example, Megan, a former colleague who's not on the call with us here, but also works at VML. We both were in the class with John Rogers, ended up going to different universities, now both work at the same company, but not doing graphic design. But one way that we were able to give back was actually to help like host the CAPS class for John Rogers at VMLY&R and give them that opportunity to do like an on-site job tour, which was really, really awesome. But I would just suggest to all like the teachers that we do have on the call, this is probably going to be the first time that students get to have like a little bit more of a personal relationship with their teacher. They don't see you as a teacher in high school. They might see you as a little bit more than that, similar to how you might have a relationship with a college educator that you go into their office hours, maybe even get coffee with them. And I would definitely lean on that because you would be able to provide back into the alumni network resources that we could tap into. Hey, so-and-so, I was, really great in one of my classes, and I know what they're up to, and I think that they would, be really interested in this. So being able to forge that relationship while you're there with your students, you're gonna find the niche of kids that want to stay involved. You're gonna find the niche of kids that want to stay in your network and stay, connected, and that will build past the CAPS experience onto the alumni side of things.
Amazing. And just one thing I think you're naming there, Lauren, as well, is that you and Megan and Antonio and Jenna are now positioned to offer additional opportunities to educators that they can pass on to their students. And that piece is how we scale the impact of great educators, right? That the students that they have supported then become the champions of what they were empowered to do when they were their students. So I think that's like, it's just would completely change the face of K-12 education if that were something that were more deliberately structured and supported over time. Antonio and Jenna, I don't want to put you on the spot, but any reflections on sort of teaching networking, for lack of a better phrase, in authentic and organic ways to help current CAPS students sort of see the long-term power of these connections?
Yeah, I'm just going to piggyback off of what Lauren said. I just think it's so important that teachers are creating that environment in the classroom and empowering their students and giving them the confidence that, they are a contributor. They're not just there to, sit in the seat and, just listen to the teacher and take orders. I think the student needs to feel empowered as well. And so I think that's one thing that John always mentioned is like, I'm not here to teach at you. I don't want to be called a teacher. He really was a mentor and just someone that helped guide us, when we needed help. And so I think that he did a really great job. Scott Kreschel did a great job. I'm just listing teachers that I know helped me. Greg Brown, I could keep going, but basically just giving us the confidence that we can empower ourselves and empower others to really contribute and give back. And so I think that's how we've been able to stay best connected and grow our network in these early stages is the people that we've connected with. We've all, it's honestly all come from John's network and continually reaching out over the years. So that I don't know, Antonio, if there's anything else that you wanted to add, but yeah, Lauren, what you said was spot on.
Yeah, Jenna and Lauren, you both covered pretty much everything and covered it really well. One thing I wanted to add is that just being in CAPS and being able to be in these different profession-based classes really makes it easy for you to have that passion that will drive the desire for you to have these connections. And I think that really helped me to find other technology-based connections in the industry through my CAPS class. And it kind of made me go out of my way to try to find those opportunities.
Awesome. And I think all of you are underlining just the powerful role that educators can play that may not always sort of be as visible in traditional assessment or grades, which is like every interaction between a student and educator may be building that student's confidence to mobilize networks down the line. If they're seeing that educator sort of, to Jenna, your point, empower them, give them the agency to build those networks and actually mobilize them. And that can really outlast the sort of classroom experience. There's a question in the chat that I want to just make sure to call out from Sally Ricker, asking how can educators reach the CAPS alumni, which is obviously a sort of logistical challenge. Sally, the one thing I'd say that hopefully is a long-term play, not an immediate solution to your question, is create systems and structures now with your current students so that they remain connected somehow to the program once they graduate. But any of you want to chime in here, sort of what might educators do to reach the alumni network?
Yeah, I dropped a few notes in the chat. So we have a LinkedIn page, and our educators are able to be part of that LinkedIn group as well as our alumni. So there's that piece of it. And then wanted to give a shout out to Corey and Jennifer. And then specifically when I think of Jennifer, she actually has provided us a database list of alumni from the last, I think, 8 years or so. So to answer the question, I would say, as a data nerd myself, as an analyst, it would be wrong without me saying data is everything. Keep that data, get personal email addresses while the kids are in high school, not their school email addresses, because they go away, right? Get their personal email addresses and keep that database. Then you'll be able to reach back far, far, far. So that's just my little tidbit, I guess.
I'll also just shout out, as we've in our research looked at the technology market, and we're going to talk tech in a second here, that there are tools emerging that try and make sort of alumni management much more feasible, even at the high school level. So two to check out are one called Alumni Toolkit, which is run by the Big Picture Learning Network, as well as Alumni Fire, which is a really affordable tool built for higher ed institutions, but not at the price tag that most higher ed alumni engagement tools come at. So I would check those out, Sally, as well, for kind of, again, long-term infrastructure investments. So I want to talk about another part of tech before we sort of wrap up here. And please, I put an invitation in the chat, but if the audience members have other questions for our esteemed panelists, drop those in and we'll get to them before we wrap up at 1:15. But this is the year of Zoom, right? This is everyone's like 100th Zoom call of the week, probably. I think it's been a year where, on the one hand, we've seen the immense potential to connect using technology and overcome geography and time barriers and cost barriers. And on the other hand, I think there's some skepticism that like online connections are a good thing for students who are craving in-person connection. So I'm just curious to hear, as you guys have actually literally been talking to current CAPS students, I'm assuming a lot of that is happening over Zoom or other technologies. How has that gone? And how do you think about that technology interface kind of mediating the relationship? And this is open to any of you, although I'm curious to hear from our technology student, Antonio, specifically, if you have thoughts here on what could be improved and what's working.
Yeah, so having all this happen during the pandemic, of course, Jenna mentioned it, facilitated the creation of this committee. Without this committee, or without this being virtual, it would have been much more difficult. Jenna is in Chicago. I would have been in Nebraska. And just in general, if you're not in the Kansas City area, it's really hard to give back in person. So having this in Zoom or in Google Meet has really facilitated and made it much easier for CAPS connections who aren't in the Kansas City area to connect. So we've had people all over the country come to our mix and mingles, come to our cultivates, and that's really helped to bring everybody together. It is difficult to connect online, and making those connections happen naturally, especially in large groups, is quite difficult. And that's something we're still working on. So we're trying to have more events where we can make sure the alumni can connect with each other and connect based on their industry.
And just to clarify, those are for alumni to alumni connections, not just alumni to current student connections. Got it.
Yes.
Jenna and Lauren, anything else you sort of learned in using Google Meet or Zoom to talk to current students or to one another, informing the committee?
I think for alumni to alumni, it's been wonderful, just because everyone kind of goes their own ways after college. So like Antonio said, we were able to connect with people that there's no way we could ever connect before. Some of our panelists from the fall, live internationally, and Antonio is in California right now. I'm in Chicago. So, I think it's just a testament to how cool it is that we can grow our network in a global lens. But in terms of alumni to student, that's where it gets a little bit challenging for us. I think engagement can be a little bit challenging with scheduling around teachers, agendas and things like that. So I think that's something that we're still kind of working on as we try to coordinate with this hybrid model. You know, students have been in the classroom and then home for a while. So I think as we move forward, we're just continuing to learn.
Great. And I would suggest, you know, this is a place where educators could really lean in and bring some structure to that to create some predictability. So if they want someone who is a CAPS alum who was in the technology strand to speak at a certain time, they could kind of put out a call to the alumni network and create sort of enough rhythm that there's some predictability. And I think that's probably an opportunity down the line. Lauren, you want to get in here on technology, or you? Okay, yeah.
No, I'm good. Yeah, the only thing I will say is Zoom fatigue is real. Everything that I'm doing is over Zoom, over video. There are ways to spice it up a little bit to make it a little bit more personal. Figuring what that is kind of up to you, but do realize that there are times that we need to actually step away from it as well, because if we did everything via Zoom all the time without that break, without that, like that natural pause, your communication and the times that you are online are not going to be as effective. So really cherish the time away from the virtual setting is my take.
And this is me not knowing fully about sort of your strategy moving forward, but also thinking about the different modalities through which alumni can lend their wisdom to one another and to current students, right? Like sometimes email might actually suffice. We don't always have to be on a Zoom link to transmit useful information or even inspiration. So thinking about like not getting too over sort of attached to certain platforms, I think is another lesson from the pandemic. So not seeing any additional questions in the chat. I want to wrap up with sort of just an opportunity for you guys to share some takeaways of this kind of grand experiment you guys have led over the past year of your alumni committee and the potential you see for others in the CAPS network. And really, like when Corey invited me to moderate this and I got to know about your guys' work, it's a testament to a pay it forward culture that CAPS maybe intentionally or maybe not intentionally really managed to build. And so what are the top 3 ways other CAPS alum and frankly educators as well across this national network can continue to build that pay it forward culture? How can you sort of make that a part of the CAPS experience beginning to end and then past the end when you're out in the world of work? Anyone can go first, but I'm going to call on all 3 of you. So
I would say just advice to teachers is building that alumni pipeline and being proactive with how we are obtaining contact information. I think when we start from the bottom up, you know, when students are now leaving the program, we're better able to reach out and integrate beyond past their high school email address and what they were doing in high school, so we can stay connected as we continue to grow. It's a lot harder to backtrack and try to find that information, you know, when we have to search for people on LinkedIn and try to reach out that way. But I think if we, you know, get on top of it and we stay engaged from the moment that they leave, that's where we'll really start to see a difference.
And Jenna, can I push one step past that? Because having heard you talk yesterday and then also on this panel, I feel like the logistics are critical and it can kind of break an effort like this, but you're obviously also getting a lot out of this, I sense, in the way you talk about it. So Jennifer brought up in the chat that having these experiences be mutually beneficial is really important. Any tips on how to ensure that interactions between alumni and current students are mutually beneficial? Does that make sense?
I just really find enjoyment from being able to help students because you just never know how they're going to be able to help you out later. I think sometimes we discount what students have to offer, but just being able to see and watch students grow is just, it's really fulfilling and heartwarming. And I like to help students because I know it's kind of early on to share because I'm only 5-6 years out, but even just the ways that they've been able to touch me and help me has been has been really awesome. I don't know if Antonio and Lauren have anything to share on that perspective, but
I think really powerful to make it visible if you're doing this, to make it visible to alums that they are in fact helping students. Lauren, go ahead. And then Antonio will round it out with you.
A little bit unrelated, but just to all the educators that we do have on the call, be looking for in your current senior class, those extra superstar students that might be good individuals or good people for starting a alumni committee. We would love to be able to spread this just further outside of the Blue Valley area and get to know those students. You guys are in those classes with those students every single day, so you have a really good a judge to see who those kids are, and they'll make it well known that they want to be involved too. So and it would be quite flattering as well if you reach out to them saying, hey, I think you would be a great candidate for starting Alumni Network. That will make them feel good, but also they will probably be interested as well, just given their enthusiasm in your class. So looking forward to working with other alumni networks in the future.
And I think too, just to give a tangible example of this, I think gaining excitement around the alumni network is something that we really worked on in the fall. And so we actually were able to partner with the digital design class, and they were able to create logos and branding material for some of that event. So we started to engage our current students to kind of help give back proactively to our alumni network, and kind of just show that continuum of, it doesn't have to just start when you graduate, you can start now and get involved.
Love it. Such an example of deep integration, showing students the value instead of telling. Okay, Antonio, take us home.
Okay, I mean, Lauren and Jenna did a really great job at sharing what they had to offer. I guess I just encourage CAPS instructors to keep treating these pre-professional students as equals, well, not completely equals, but treat them as people who have a bunch of aspirations, and allow them to pursue their passions within the class. Because at least for me, that really helped me build my relationship with my instructor based on what my passions were, and really made me want to give back to my course and the students that are currently in it.
Awesome, beautifully said. Well, I would like to we can't applaud you, but thank our esteemed panelists for sharing your wisdom today. And I think really setting an example for possibility CAPS network wise when it comes to tapping into growing alumni bases. So with that, we'll wrap up. Thank you again for your time. And I think we have contact information if you scroll up in the chat for all of the alums that participated today, if you want to reach out and get in touch.
Yes, thank you, Julia. Thank you, Ethan. Thank you, all educators on the call. We appreciate your time.
Thank you
Thank you all so much.
Yes, thank you. And you'll see that we're going to another set of breakouts. One is the art of coaching, if you're interested in how you coach projects. This is going to be a great session. The other one, if you're into, let's just get into an intimate room and talk about what we're trying to accomplish based on a set of practitioners and roll up our sleeves. You have a chance to go into a breakout room, or into a room that would then lead to a series of breakouts that you can take part in. So we look forward to continuing the conversation. Thank you so much, Julia Freeland Fisher and our great alums, for all of their contributions today.